Welcome back, kiddies. Here's a bit of a new segment for us for the channel. I'm going to call it Salvaging You. I tend to correct a bit of junk here and there, but all for a reason. I'm going to go through my salvage of certain components can help you with either mod your bigger saws and stuff like that. Even a small squipper snipper can mod a 70cc saw, and I'm going to show you some of the first steps on how and getting this stuff you need, plus spare parts and the like. Let's get started. My favourite type of thing to salvage is stuff made in Mexico. The reason I say that is you see a lot of it around, and a lot of it has Robo parts in it, or hammers. Like this, I'm going to show you in a second, is this pile of bits and bobs was out of a an MTD leaf bar, 31cc Mexican made, and they use Robo flywheel. I don't seem to have the much. I think that's the cap. Yeah. Sandma carburetor. Basic thing for duckbill. And a Robo magneto. And all the other bits of junk. I haven't kept the rings off it. The rings are still good, Nick. This particular unit, the fan became dislodged and it wouldn't hold true, you know. The bloke had a nut and bolt holding it on, but it was just gone. But you think, oh yeah, this is only a bit of just junk, you know, what can this possibly be any good use for? If you're someone like me who owns, let's see, I can see them from here, 1, 2, 3 pawns, which all run Robo flywheels. This is quite handy. I'm going to try messing around with them and see if there's any difference in timing on them compared to the chainsaws, because I believe the leaf bars run faster, so I'll see if there's any difference. I'll have to go for the part numbers and find out. But it's always handy to have extra parts. But the biggest thing is all of this gear is mufflers. Always hang on to the mufflers, especially they've got ports like that. They are the best thing to start off with. Cutting these out, drawing them, and pop weaving these onto a 70cc saw, which I'm going to do very soon. But even in a 38cc saw, an extra one of these at the side makes so much of a difference. You know, well, this one's got a gauze in it, but stuff like this is worth keeping. You come across stuff like this, that's the money maker. Right, let's see. I'm just going to do a bit of a sorting here, so Robo parts over there, ignition lead, muffler there. Right, that's out of that pile, in gaskets. It's always handy having gaskets. And bearings. 2 American made bearings. This is just nuts and screws, you know, you don't really worry too much about them. So I'll put these aside. Let's see what this pile is. I think it's just Tanica stuff. Nothing overly important in it. It's just an old Tanica whipper snipper, had points. Piston only this big, but it was cross-throw fed with a cast iron sleeve. It's one of the oldest little saws that whipper snippers I've ever seen. There you go, here's another box. What do we got in here? I believe this was off a 38cc home light, Mexican made, mech made. And it runs all the Robo gear in it. I believe a lot of these parts are interchangeable with a lot of other parts. Yeah, that's why I said, you know, if you own Robos or anything like pawns, they all use the same part. What is the part number on this? Let's see. This one's made in 03, that one's made in 02. Okay. I don't know if they're off-centered by any chance, but I'll line these up. You know what? They are. This one's advanced slightly to this one, so that's a thing you got to keep your eyes open for. You know, people think, well, why do you want slightly advanced? How do you advance? Good way to advance your timing without having to touch your keyway, because it's the identical same part, but they're if I line these up front way. Try and line up on the camera. If the line's in the camera. And it's lined up. This one's more advanced than this one. So I might have to try that on the pawn. See if I can advance the timing a bit. This is the stuff you've got to keep your eyes open for. There's a coil. What the difference in the coils for the same bolt pattern? They look like the same bolt pattern, so who knows, they might fit. I might end up putting one of these coils which matches the one of them, and I might be able to advance the timing on my pawn another 2 degrees. We're having the file and stuff to try and jig it around. And all the clutches are the same, so that was handy. And then just bits and bobs and junk, and nuts and screws. There's nothing really interesting there for the viewer at home. But screws though, always hang on to your screws. And here's another bag of stuff I've got to sort for you today. This is all out of a Talon leaf bar, like what Underwood's got the other day. You come across mufflers like these. These are grouse mufflers, because you can just take these off, hammer these out, nice and flat, and there's your big discharge port for the side of a chainsaw. It comes off in one piece. So that's worth its weight in gold or modder. You can tell she's had a hard life, that old girl. But I still hang on to this stuff, so I've got access to a lathe. Who knows? I might be able to even check interventions of some saws. I might be able to even turn this down or get to fit some saws. But I don't know how strong it will be, because that's cast aluminum. But no, I can push all the bearings out, at least keep the bearings. Surprised how handy like oversized bearings and stuff. And people think, well, what do you want oversized bearings for? When you're doing crank swaps and stuff like that, and being funny buggers and changing pistons, sometimes you get a piston which is the perfect size and slightly taller, especially in the clamshell saws, but the gudgeon pin might be a bit small for that saw. But you've got multiple sizes of these, you can find one which is the same size, but internally it's different, and you can actually judge it into it. So you can actually convert a long gudgeon pin over to the right size without any drastic modifications. And that you can take a crank, so I had a crank like this you wanted to mod, I could actually set it up on the mill, clock it, and bore it out to accept a pit off a larger one of these. This one's larger than this one in the top here. So I could be able to force that into that and run that piston if I wanted to. It gets you always on the cards. See, just gaskets and stuff in that bag. And the piston, nothing overly exciting. Oh. there's a side discharge port off a what was this on off? It was off a 4-stroke whippersnipper. Think. It was off a Troy built. That was just bolted to the side of the muffler, just like that. I went, beauty. All the ones I said always seem to have this hole nicked out in them. I don't know why. If it lets me push the air to fly through, I don't know. And that one's got it too. So that will probably end up on one of my saws, probably one of my new pawns. So stuff like that's always handy. That's actually off the old 2050 pawn. Look at the box. That's the old air filter they usually have on them. I changed it out for the one that was on the Home Light Robo. This junk it away. You get to some of the fun stuff. Problem is when you've been collecting for years and you get a bit stuck at sorting, you end up with a pile of stuff. In this case, gotta move the camera. You end up with a pile of carburetors. Hang on, let me take a drink. Passion fruit. No, that's just an air box. There's nothing over exciting. But you end up with a stack of carburetors and carburetor parts. People think, oh, well, you can just buy one online, a Chinese one. Well, yeah, everyone knows how to deal with a Chinese carburetor. You know how bad they can be at times. Yeah, even the new Zammers come from China now, but at least they're somewhat, reasonably built. I've got a few here. What's this one? That's off a something. It's a Robo though, so it's only a small ventry, so probably off a whip snipper or leaf bar. Jammer junk. Another Robo, Jap Robo. Another 20. So a lot of these I've only just pulled apart for the gaskets. This is before this is all before eBay, and you can buy, do gaskets for some of this stuff. But now I can go on eBay and buy gaskets like $20 for 10. I could buy 20 of them for like $5. Some of these old girls are worth keeping. And there's another one I pulled apart. What's that? That's WA 160. WA 59. Some of these are off steels and stuff. I believe this one's off a steel. I'll have to check the ventry holes in them. Oh, take them off. That's a bit of an odd plate. Wellboy, number 20 again. 005. I think that might fit the I might be able to get him to fit the my new pawn. My new pawn's got a half D shape and it's EPA regulated. So one of these old girls should fit it. Now I even got a couple of the pawn ones that got the built-in choke in them. The Chinese ones, that is. So who knows, I might be able to have an actual proper choke on a pawn with all the starting sequence on it as an idea for a later video. Bolts and screws, always hang out for these. You're pulling apart saws and stuff. You think, oh yeah, just cheap bolts, you can buy them on eBay for nothing. When you pull apart some of the older American built or Mexican built stuff, they all got decent bolts in them, like 12.9 bolts and stuff, holding stuff together. So I work in the dye industry and they're expensive as hell. That's an 8.8, so that's medium high tensile. But some of the Chinese stores I pulled apart, I'll be lying if they say they even got 4.8s in them. They're just garbage. That's where most of your issues with when you start breaking bolts and stuff, and they're a pain to get out. Just having a box full of spare decent screws goes such a long way. There's the contenders for that saw. heat shield gaskets, always handy if you cut a gasket out for something. Always correct them. Like the Troy built, which I pulled apart the other day, had a gasket in it, but this wide, about this long, with all this American made heat-proof gasket, the interface solution gasket. So I got a big sheet of it just from one junky old whippersnipper. So parts like that are handy, just for modding and stuff. A couple more of these. I can't remember when here. I know one of these is out of an old pamphlet from many years ago. But you can see how close some of the stuff is. It's pretty close in terms of I think they're probably the same size. May have had a vernier for once, but you could see one's taller than the other. That's got a small gudgeon pin, but the one's taller than the other, and it's got different skirts on it. This is pretty much one of these, but as a blank nearly. So in the camera, you'd be able to have a funny buggers with this because it's slightly higher in the wing hole. If you're going this into a small sauce, and you can be able to either have too much squish and be able to machine it down, or machine it into a pop-up piston, and that gives you an extra grunt. Or you can bury the crank over. The crank might be slightly longer, and in this case, one crank looks like it's tougher than the other crank. So you could just swap the crank over and have a more gutsier crank in it. Literally, rather have fun and play funny buggers and stuff. So that's my quick introduction to some of this stuff. Salvage has always been a handy thing to have. When it comes to stuff like this, unless it's wrecked beyond belief, keep it. Put it in a box, small box like this. A lot of this is coming out of this box because the box has gotten too big or too small. But a lot of stuff like this, it's worth keeping. You end up with like you have about 5 or 10 of these kicking around. You're surprised how handy they are. Just for screws and jets. You can swap jets, the needles over on other saws, and because they might be slightly different shape, you can change the turning even finer or even coarser, depending. If you got one which is weaving backwards and forwards, you could swap over a different one of these jets, and you can make the saw a completely different beast. So hang on to your gear, especially when you come across the side of the road for free. Alright, listen to my little rant, so I'll catch you guys next time.